So this is my Copic marker collection, and I love it very dearly. I think it has a very good mix of colors. You want to look at it? There it is. Whenever I sit down to draw something, I feel like I have all the colors that I need, and I haven't really felt myself wanting any other ones. And today I might feel a little different about that because I'm going to be only using one of them at random. Here goes. Hey guys, welcome back. Before sitting down to draw, I picked out my marker, closing my eyes, and I got Jasper, or BG57. I started drawing with a good old pencil. I haven't drawn in a couple days, and I like to keep things simple and not scare myself into an art block, because if you've been drawing as long as I have, you kind of noticed when things happen and what things cause those things that happen. So for me, when I have very high expectations for myself and I can't meet those expectations, it's not a good time, and that's kind of when I start feeling insecure about my art. So I decided to go in this very simple, and one of my favorite things to do when it comes to being simple is to try and use only one marker. And I'm still feeling that holiday spirit, even though New Year's has already passed. So I wanted to draw something fun, like holiday dress, I thought, maybe. I don't know. I mean, she looks a little old to be wearing this sort of dress. But hey, in my little 2D illustrative world universe place, no one makes fun of anyone for dumb things, so I think she'll get on just fine. I do have to make a little confession though. While I was drawing this drawing thing of an illustration-y drawing thing, I wasn't really thinking about what color that I was going to have to use when it came down to it, even though it was sitting right there. I kind of just, drew, which happens when you haven't drawn in a while. I mean, at least it does for me, because I've noticed if I don't draw in a while, I lose that kind of urge to sit down and draw. I kind of just sort of float through life without art. But once I force myself to actually sit down, or I accidentally sit down next to a pencil or something, the art just sort of starts coming, And I'm not saying it's good art. It just starts flowing, someone made a weird, semi-realistic cartoon girl with poor fashion sense shaped hole in the size of the Hoover Dam, and whoosh, the drawings just pour out. I really hope that means that art and me are kind of in it for the long haul, because I mean, it'd be really depressing if me from the future just dropped out of a wormhole one day and landed on her feet majestically like a cat and just told me, on the 23rd of January, that was the last day that you ever drew a draw. And then I'm like, what? And I'm just having a heart attack. I mean, mostly because I'm just meeting myself from the future, but oh my gosh, what a life if I can't draw. What's the point? Did anyone else picture when I fall out of the wormhole in the future that I'm wearing an eye patch? For some reason I picture myself with an eye patch. I mean, but then I'd have no depth perception, would I? I mean, but at least I'd look kind of cool. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, don't be super depressed if you just don't sort of feel like drawing. I mean, that doesn't make you a terrible artist. We go through those, high points and low points, and there's gonna be moments when you don't really feel like doing it, and that's okay. I get them too. I don't think that automatically means that art isn't meant for you, because I've never experienced anything in life that I could just enjoy endlessly, because by the 11th cookie you're kind of that was maybe one too many cookies. Yeah. Oh, here. So once I was finished sketching, I erased everything just so slightly with my kneaded eraser. That way, it's mostly erased, but I can still see it, so I know where to put the ink for the line art, and then I began adding the line art. I decided to play around with the line art this go around because I was going into this thinking, oh, I'm only going to be using one marker, so I need to really take advantage of the fact that I'm going to be using line art and add to the illustration in some way. So I decided to use both the brush tip and a 0.3 fine liner and brush pen, I guess. And I'm going to add the line art with the 03 and then use the brush pen to fill in the larger areas. So I'm actually filling in a lot of sections and sort of using it as a second marker. If you've ever done the one marker challenge before, you'll realize that it's a very good exercise in separating your colors and adding contrast between colors that are right next to each other, like the skin and the shirt, or the shirt and the skirt. So that's kind of funny. So what I'm doing with the line art is I'm actually, again, adding just another tone to everything, because the line art is darker than Jasper, and Jasper is darker than the white paper. So now I kind of have three tones to work with, and I can separate those out and put them together as I need to. When I was originally drawing this, I kind of pictured the skirt being the black section, but when I took a step back and looked at the drawing, I realized that the way the character was laid out and everything, that using the line art to fill in the shirt section would give me a lot more to work with, because then I can add that blue color for the hair and for the skirt, and they won't overlap each other. Do you see what that would mean? Well, I mean, once I'm finished drawing, you'll see the way I laid out the colors, but because of the line art in the shirt, I can do what I just said. But if I had colored the shirt section blue, then I'd have to color like the hair black or leave the skirt white, and I'm limited a little bit more in that way, and I wanted to add the hair blue and the skirt blue because this is the 1 marker challenge and I wanted to use as much blue as possible, and by coloring in the shirt I was able to do that. I messed up with the face because, I mean, I've kind of got this ruining the face every time I draw traditionally streak going, and I didn't really feel like breaking it today, so yay. Okay, so once I did the line art, I basically, just did line art the way you do line art. You just kind of trace what you drew, so there's not much to say about that. So yeah, there's the line art. I'm practicing cleaning up line art that I've drawn traditionally digitally, so I'll have the line art of this available if you'd like to color it yourself. Last time I did a 1 marker challenge, I did this, and it was so cool seeing you guys try it out yourself with your own colors and your own markers, and so it was all these different colors, and it was like a rainbow of awesome. So if you want to color that, I'll have a link in the description. But now that the line art is done, I can go in with my Jasper and start to color it. This is probably a big no-no and like the first thing you learn on your first day of marker school, but I literally just dabbed the colorless blender onto the marker to grab the color. Oh my gosh, what was that lightning? Are the marker gods coming for me? No, okay, I guess I'll live. Anyway, I don't do this a lot because I own pastel markers, so there's never a need for me to do this. So I actually basically never use my colorless blender ever, and this is like one of the first times. But I realize it works really well if I just blob it onto the Jasper color, and then I take that straight to the paper and I just blob on like the nose and the cheeks, and it adds like a little bit of blush. And this worked really, really well. I had a lot more later because I really didn't know what the heck I was doing, she says in every single video. But I figured it out a little bit later on, so it'll look better then, so stay tuned. But after that, I just started using the straight brush tip and colored in like the lips and added a little bit of eyeshadow. And I colored in the ribbon and like any of the darkest areas of the illustration, like underneath the skirt. And then for the actual skirt, I wanted to give it a little bit more texture and almost a gradient, so I started at the bottom and like did light brush strokes upwards, lifting up the pen as I went so that it would get lighter and softer as it went up, because I wanted the top of the skirt to be lighter than the bottom of the skirt. And then once I had done that, I used like a colorless blender to try and help blend that out even more, make it smoother and gradient up to a lighter color, and I did that throughout the whole skirt. For the first part of it, I did it in that very front section that you see, and I did it really, really dark, and then when it came to doing the rest of the skirt, I realized that I had done that part too dark, so I had to kind of go over the rest of the skirt and try to make it matchy-matchy. And then I wanted to add even more texture, so I just added like more dark polka dots all over it. Not entirely sure what I was thinking, it just sort of happened. Then I also colored in like the bracelets, and then I moved on to the hair. Again, I started with the section that I wanted to be the darkest so that I could do multiple layers, and this is like the hair that's behind her neck, so it's gonna get a lot less light back there, so I'm coloring in that first. And then I'm trying to add shine to the random hair that she's holding. Can I just mention that that looks really weird? I know, it just looks kind of like she's holding goop. I had in my mind, she's like playing with her hair, so cute, but I mean, that looks just weird. Anyway. But I'm trying to add shine to the weird stuff, and I think it worked really well. What I did was, at first I tried to use that same strokes with lifting it like I did with the skirt to kind of get that soft look, but I realized I like it a lot better when it has like a hard edge to the shine. I think it just looks a lot cooler, and it's more what I'm going for, so I started actually drawing with the marker from the shine and moving up, and then going underneath the shine and putting the marker straight down and then pulling away from the shine, if that makes any sense, and that's how I get that hard edge, and I like it a lot better. But then for one of the shines, the one like right behind her ear there, I did use that sort of soft feathering technique, and some reason I like it there, but I didn't like it in other places. I think it's because that part of the hair isn't jetting out in any way. It's much like, I don't know, it's just falling there softly and gently. So a nice soft and gentle shine makes more sense. Whereas the other parts where I added the shine, the hair is, you know, curved in some way, a little bit more exaggerated, and I like it better to be harsh shine there. At least that's my thoughts. I went over the hair a lot. This was kind of, I thought, an important part of the drawing, so I kind of wanted to make it look good. And then, I mean, you can be the judge of that. But then I moved on to these little shinies that I was trying to help with the composition of the drawing, because like I said, when I was drawing Rapunzel for the year of 2019, I kind of want to practice composition and really making my drawings sort of look like some effort was put into the layout of the character and like the elements of the drawing. So I decided to add those shiny things that kind of help create like a swoosh sort of to the drawing. It's even more swooshy at the end if you stay tuned. But I basically colored the outside of the little shines and then tried to blend them out because I wanted the shine to be white and then the outside of them to be giving off like a blue, like the Jasper color. I don't know if it worked, but I don't know, trying something new. And then I felt like there was just a lot of white space at the top, and I really liked how at the bottom I had done with the line art that black border. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting and contrasty to add a Jasper colored border at the top and leave the sides opened. And once I'd done that, I really liked that. I think it just added like an extra sort of something. I'm not saying it's cooler, I'm not saying it's worse, it's just sort of like, you know, there, but I like it, and I think it adds some weight up at the top of the drawing because the bottom was very heavy, and I kind of like it that way. Then I went in and added some more depth to the hair because I have to wait for those layers to dry, and then I can add another layer and they get darker. So that's what I did behind her head again. Then I went in with a white gel pen and added some like shimmers here and there, like to the skirt and the tights and the ribbon around her waist. Just trying to add a little bit more, I don't know, interest to the piece. And this is when I realized I wanted the blush tones on like her nose and her cheek and her ears to be a lot darker and more noticeable. So I'm going in with another layer of that. Again, I kind of just blob it down darkly and then try to blend the bejeebas out of it. That's how I'm going about it. For some places I like put down a little bit too much marker and then it takes a little bit longer to blend out, or sometimes there's sections that don't really blend as well as others. I don't really understand how that works quite yet. I think it just comes to letting it dry a little bit too much before you go in with the colorless blender. But I was able to get fixed like the knuckles, which was a goal of mine because I thought I put a little too much down on that one knuckle right there. Oh, and then I also added some nail polish because the fingers were just boring me. And I've been adding nail polish to all my drawings lately, and sometimes it can make my fingers look really, really weird, but these hands already looked weird, so I was like, it's worth a shot. Oh, and then I used the white gel pen to add some white to those little sparkles that I had added because I had taken the marker a little bit too close to them and the white wasn't really showing through, so I used the white gel pen. And then I don't know what I was thinking. I do know what I was thinking. I grabbed the Jasper marker and I started adding like glitter dots, but with the dark color around her, because I was trying to, again, really follow through on my composition goal for the year, and I decided to add like a swoosh of these glitters. So I had in my mind this S-shaped curve that went like around her head and then down behind her, and so I kind of just tried to follow that and condense most of the dots along where the line would be, that imaginary S line, and that is how I did that, at least. It's kind of interesting, kind of looks like snow. It doesn't really look like sparkles like I had in my mind, but yeah, there is my one marker challenge, or I guess I used 2 markers and 2 liners and a white gel pen. And I mean, if you're going to be really picky, I used a pencil and an eraser, and then I mean, if you're gonna go that far, I also used, you know, paper. So I guess I failed. But I had a lot of fun, and it's really good to feel back into this drawing. I hadn't drawn in a bit, and yeah, I think it's important to give yourself breaks, and it feels more exciting to get back into it when you have. So I'm very excited to get into this again. So here we go. Here's to a great 2019. Anyway, I hope you all have a delicious evening full of waffles, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!